We're on page 13 of the foreword now, and we're going to finish up our presentation on the God the Ultimate. These first two paragraphs on page 13, in my opinion, are some of the most beautiful in the book, because they sum up so well what the Father is doing in our place in the whole scheme of things. The universal Father, to the mechanism of evolutionary deity, is actually engaged in the stupendous and amazing act of personality focalization and power mobilization in their respective universal meaning levels of the divine reality values of the finite, the absolute, and even of the absolute. Our whole career is included in these few words: stupendous and amazing act, personality focalization, and power mobilization, the two things that make up power personalizing. The first three and past deities of paradise, the Universal Father, the Eternal Son, and the Infinite Spirit, are in the eternal future to be personality complemented by the experiential actualization of associate evolutionary deities, God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and possibly God the Absolute. We have the three paradise deities, Father, Son, and Infinite Spirit, to be personality complemented by these three experiential deities. It's hard to imagine a greater destiny than is afforded ourselves. God the Supreme and God the Ultimate, now evolving in the experiential universes, are not existential. They're not past eternals, only future eternals. Time-space conditioned, as far as Supreme goes, and transcendental conditioned eternals. Transcendental condition refers to the ultimate. They are deities of supreme, ultimate, and possibly supreme ultimate endowments, but they have experienced historic universe origins. They will never have an end, but they do have personality beginnings. They are indeed actualizations of eternal and infinite deity potentials, but they themselves are neither unqualifiedly eternal nor infinite. This next section regarding God the Absolute, I can't make much comment about. I'll just have to practically read it because it is one of the more difficult. There are many features of the eternal reality of the deity absolute which cannot be fully explained to the time-space finite mind, but the actualization of God the Absolute would be in consequence of the unification of the second experiential Trinity, the Absolute Trinity. That is composed of three entities: the consummator of destiny, God the Absolute, and the deity ultimate. That will the deity consequence of that should result in God the Absolute. This would constitute the experiential realization of absolute divinity, unification of absolute meanings on absolute levels. But we are not certain regarding the encompassment of all absolute values, since we have at no time been informed that the qualified absolute is the equivalent of the infinite. The qualified absolute is the potential of total deity. Super-ultimate destinies are involved in absolute meanings and infinite spirituality, but without both of these unachieved realities, we cannot establish absolute values. They, in essence, saying they have no idea how God's going to work this out, or too much even what it means. So if they can't understand it, there's very little that we can derive from it also, except that it is a reality that seems to be in the process, the unfoldment of God's self-revelation. If He can't reveal that to us, and we cannot comprehend it, then we cannot really understand the self-revelation of God to His creatures. God the Absolute is the realization, attainment, goal of all super-absolute beings. But the power and personality potential of the deity absolute transcends our concept. and we hesitate to discuss those realities which are so far removed from experiential actualization. So we have those three things, the finite, the abstinite, and he's saying these are super abstinite, and they have a hard time realizing what it is, so there's no way we can spend much time on it. And again, it will be another power personality unification. Now we come to one of the neat things of the book, the three absolutes. These are, I wouldn't say tricky things, they're very beautiful things. They're the stuff that we are made out of. These are the potentials of all things. They are, the Father gave expression to paradise and his infinite Son, unified by the infinite Spirit. At the same time, and concomitantly, and simultaneously with that, he, in essence, gave birth to the potentials of doing the same thing again. We have the three absolutes called unqualified, universal absolute, and deity absolute. Let's say, in essence, the unqualified always refers to the cosmos and to paradise. Deity absolute refers to spirit realities, personality realities, anything on that line, and that refers back to the Son. While the universal absolute is the unification of both and corresponds, in general, with the infinite Spirit. At least that's one way to picturize these three tremendous entities, absolutes, complete absolutes. When the combined thought of the universal Father and the eternal Son, functioning in the God of action, constituted the creation of the divine and essential universe. The Father followed the expression of his thought into the word of his Son and the act of their conjoint executive by differentiating his omnipresence from the potentials of infinity. He's expressing there, the Father followed the expression of his thought into the word of his Son and the act of their conjoint executive by differentiating his omnipresence from all that could possibly be in the future. We are now operating upon the great realms of the absolutes, which is being actualized in time and space, beyond time and space, and the absolute realms. These undisclosed infinity potentials remain space concealed in the unqualified absolute, meaning this has mostly to do with the cosmos, energy, power, and divinely enshrouded in the deity absolute, having to do with spirit things. While these two become one in the functioning of the universal absolute, the unrevealed infinity unity of the Paradise Father. But potency of cosmic force and potency of spirit force are in process of progressive revelation realization as the enrichment of all reality is effected by experiential growth and through the correlation of the experiential with the existential by the universal absolute. Everything is included in this regarding, it's all force, cosmic force, which is the unqualified absolute, and all the potentials, the potency of spirit force, which is deity absolute. They're in the progress of revelation and realization, as enrichment of all reality is effected by experiential growth in comparison with existential, which does not grow. It has always been. So these things are experientially growing, and through the correlation of both, correlation of the experiential with the existential by the universal absolute. Remember in the first topic sentence of the foreword, all these things are coordinated. All these are coordinated. And this is one thing where he's showing how that is done. By virtue of the equiposing presence of the universal absolute The first source and center realizes extension of experiential power, enjoys identification with his evolutionary creatures, and achieves expansion of experiential deity on the levels of supremacy, ultimacy, and absoluteness.